Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar series. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about general sections and some scheduling sections. So for those that are embarking on a new specification, the consideration first is, do I need general sections? The answer to that is absolutely yes. You need general sections because they talk about some of the general parts of the contract, some of the site expectations, and references off to warranties, etc. And also there's a couple of sections in there that actually describe how the specification is used and the language that's used within that specification. So you can see on my screen here, we have a list of the general sections, and as we've seen before, these drop downs, and they open up the available work sections. I guess the second question would be, do I use all of this, the general sections? The answer is use all of the ones that are applicable to this project. Now, the reason for that is because they do talk about the expectations on site and also some of the requirements in terms of warranties and as-built documentation, operation and maintenance, etc. So they need to be covered. But also, because it talks about some of the site expectations and stuff like that, it needs to be covered somewhere. And if you don't cover it in the specification, it's likely that the head contractor will cover it, and his description of events may be different to your description of events, and it may leave you a little bit exposed. So essentially, you would work your way down through each of these work sections and determine whether it's relevant to this project. So there may be some that aren't relevant to the project. Perhaps traffic control may not be relevant, etc. But if there is any semblance of requirement there, then absolutely you should put it in. Now, the thing about general sections is that there is little groupings of sections within here. You will see that where my mouse is, there is a bunch of specific sections around the likes of Homestar and Greenstar, Living Building Challenge, etc. So if your project fits into one of those categories, then what these work sections do is that they have information around what's required for Greenstar or for Homestar, etc. that umbrellas the whole project / specification. You will also see some information here, interpretations, definitions, explanation of schedule sections, reference documents and documentation and the likes. So that's a little bit about the language that's used and how what the intent of the specification is. And so that just gives some clarity to people picking up the specification. Then further down you have some of the overarching specifics, for example warranties and as-built documentation, operation and maintenance and the likes. And these are all bits of information that are referencing back to product-based work sections. In amongst some of those work sections you have automated schedules. So we Masterspec have put in automated schedules in behind some of those requirements, so that essentially it creates a schedule of all the work sections that are referenced in that work sections. And there is a few of those, and I'll cover them. So one is warranties, shop drawings, as-built documentation, operation and maintenance, samples and prototypes, spares and maintenance products. So each of those sections has a schedule that comes with it, and then that it looks at the specification and says, right, which of these product work sections have a warranty requirement or a shop drawings requirement, and then essentially populates that schedule so that people picking up the specification can go to one place and find out which work sections have a warranty requirement or which work sections have a shop drawing requirement, etc. When you select one of those work sections, it also brings in this section here, 1232S1, which essentially is an explanation of schedule sections. So it only brings it in once. So if you put in more than one schedule section, which you almost certainly will, it will just bring that explanation of schedule sections in once, so that anyone picking up the specification can understand what's happening within those schedule sections. Okay, so for the most part, there are some sections in general that have a small amount of content. Document control is a classic example of that, and if I just go into the one that I have in this test project here, you will see that's a little bit about who's doing what. So your company, all that sort of information, and a bit of document detail, etc. So that's a pretty straightforward work section that doesn't necessarily have a Q&A. When you get into some of the other work sections further down, they may have a simple Q&A that will populate that work section around the answers to the questions that you gave to the Q&A. I talked about that explanation of schedule sections, and if we have a look at that, essentially it's as simple as what I said. This comes along automatically whenever you select one of those other sections that have a schedule in them, and it's a quick explanation of what's happening elsewhere. Then we have the warranty section here, and essentially what this does is this talks about warranty requirements. Okay, provide warranties, review by contractor submission, etc. Installer, applicator, manufacturer, supplier warranty. So it covers all the parts that are required. And then you've got a bit of information about weather tightness, etc. in this particular example. Then underneath that, which comes along with the warranty section, is the schedule section. So this is the section that has the schedules in it. And you'll see on the left-hand side there that I have a couple of product sections in there, and you'll see that correspondingly they have appeared in the schedule to identify that they are work sections that have a warranty requirement, and subsequently that means they have a warranty clause or clauses that gives more detailed information about what that requirement is. So this schedule will populate every time the page is refreshed, and it will do one last check on all the work sections at the time that you go manage and print, when you've got your an export. So what it means is right up to the last thing that you do before you output your specification, it's still checking. If you come back into the specification, add a section or take a section out, then it will update next time you go, or next time the page refreshes, or next time that you go to manage and print. So it will always, the output will always be up to date in terms of identifying schedules that have that information requirement around, in this case, warranties. And within those three sections that you can see of that schedule, there will be that that detailed information on manufacturer warranty, applicator warranty, whatever's relevant to that work section. So the other thing about the general sections is that a lot of this stuff is about your practice IP. So a lot of this stuff is absolutely perfect to have in an Office Master or a template, because while some of it does have some basic references to the code, etc., the bulk of it doesn't have a lot of that info in there. So it's very much a situation where you can build it up and have it as a template to be used from project to project. And potentially you could get some of these work sections edited to 60, 70, 80, maybe even 90%, and still be usable ongoing as a template. So they're absolutely ideal for giving yourself a quick start. Every time you start a new project, you clone this Office Master with these general sections and tweak a few things around the project, and then move on to start adding your product-based work sections. So ideal for that scenario, to give you that quick start, and edit them, as I say, around your practice requirements, your practice IP. And don't forget the key rule there is, if you put custom clauses in and you want them to be populated by people using this template, put in a tilde where that information is required. So that's a look at the general sections. Do we have any questions at this stage?
There is one question, which is that what happens if you delete a particular clause from a work section that has been scheduled in the general section in the schedule?
So you mean that if you, I'm going to interpret the answer to that question is that, in other words, you had a product-based work section
Yeah,
and you deleted the warranty clause, or you deleted that work section.
yeah,
What it will do is it will update that schedule. So the schedule you see here in front of you, if I took one of those work sections out, or I deleted the warranty clauses, I'm not sure why you would, but if you did, for the sake of argument, then it would disappear off that schedule. Have I got that right according to the question, Yash?
yeah. I think that's what it meant.
So while we're going through that, we're doing these webinars on a Tuesday and a Thursday, generally at 10:30. We're covering a range of different things. We're also quite happy to deal with specific topics that you want. So if you've got things you want to see, please feel free to send that feedback through to us via Gen at masterspec.co.nz, or direct to myself or Yash, Jeremy at masterspec.co.nz, or Yash at masterspec.co.nz. The other thing is you can follow us on social media. So we have LinkedIn, we also have Instagram, and there's lots of information transferring around on there, and you can join in. Also, in terms of the webinars, and on our website, training, webinars, you can obviously contact myself or others, and I can do a practice-specific training session if required, and it can cover a range of things that you require. So you'll see here a range. You can watch these webinars after the event. You can tune in for the upcoming ones. And as I said, if you have interest in something specific that you'd like us to cover or recover, let us know, and we can take care of it for you.
I just wanted to add one other thing, that our next webinar will be covering in particular the slip resistance scheduling. So slip resistance testing, which is required under the D1 clause of the New Zealand Building Code. We'll be discussing that in detail. And we've added a completely new work section, which does the slip resistance scheduling. So it is kind of a rejoinder or a segue into today's webinar that we've looked at scheduling sections. So that would be an important one, and we will cover how we have made it very simple to make selection for or to specify slip resistance testing. So do join us for that one. That one will be coming up on the 28th of April, which is next Tuesday. So you can sign in for that through our website or through our social media, which would be our LinkedIn page. Thanks, Jeremy.
Right, thanks, Yash. Yeah, and the thing about that slip resistance is that it is infiltrated into quite a lot of other work sections. So it's quite a smart little tool that we've applied there to make that all happen. So absolutely tune into to the slip resistance webinar, because it talks a little bit about, as Yash said, where it fits, where it's referenced, and then we've got some software to make it identifiable in the specification. So thanks everybody for giving up your time today, and feel free to give us any feedback, and to give us feedback on what you'd like to see, and tune in to future webinars. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.